I've discovered a few more positives about the Paulk Smart Kart. I'm Ron Paulk, and this is the Smart Woodshop. If you'd like to get a detailed set of plans to build a smart woodshop for yourself or one of my workbenches, there's a link in the description of this video down below where you can go to our website and purchase the plans and download them instantaneously 24/7, 365. I've put up quite a few videos lately talking about the Paulk Smart Kart. I've been doing it as I develop it, as it evolves. I'm not quite at the point of finalizing it to put the plans out. The plans are close, but I'm still working a few bugs out, a few details to really get it to that final level. But I do want to talk about a couple of discoveries I've made that I wasn't expecting, that have been a real joy in using the Smart Kart in its variations over the last couple of weeks. First is, I have the wheels down. So to be clear on what that means, it means that the bench is up. When the wheels are down, that raises the bench up, and it's in its mobile form, so I can roll it around. There's no locks on the wheels. You don't need them because the design of these wheels are to kick the foot pedal up, it drops down, and then the cart sits on the floor. The bench is on the floor and it won't move. I did early on try casters, lockable casters, good quality ones, but you get caster creep and a little bit of wiggly, and I want my bench to be solid. So I went with the flip up wheel so that I can set the bench on the floor. And the other thing, as a side note, because I've had this question, is I have these slots cut in the bottom of the Smart Kart, and the sawhorses, it locks the sawhorses in. It keeps them spread out and from coming back in, much the way the spreader shelf did. And in fact, I don't need the spreader shelf anymore. But the tabs of the feet, or the feet of the sawhorses, go in those slots and they touch the floor. One of the modifications that I made two modifications to the sawhorses. One is just on the 4 feet, I didn't have to do the upper portions, but the lower feet, because of the design demands that I have for the entire, all of the features, I'm limited to a specific width on the cart. I could not go any wider, so I had to narrow the feet a little bit. And I showed you how to do that in another video. One of the other things I did was the feet on the sawhorses are made by creating a little arch that raises up in the middle between the feet. And that was at 10 millimeters. I took my pattern that I had to make the sawhorses, I clamped it on each side, and I raised that up another 10 inches, or 10 millimeters. So it is 20 millimeters now, which effectively makes the feet longer. It doesn't increase any height of anything, it just effectively makes the feet longer, and that allows the feet to go through those slots and touch the floor. So when the wheels are up, the cart is down, the sawhorses are back to their touching the floor, and so my workbench remains at my all-time, my all-critical 36 inches that I like to go for. Here's the discovery. I am finding most of the time that I'm not flipping the wheels up and dropping the bench down. It is so useful to be able to just move the bench just a little bit for different operations, that to save the time to go around and move all 4 wheels up, I'm just finding that it's got a lot of stability. It'll move if I push on it, but most of the time that's fine. What's nice is if I'm really putting the table saw through its paces, or I've got long trim on it or something like that, or I just want my bench solid on the floor the way it was designed to be used, I can pop the wheels up. But most of the time in this little shop, I'm able to just move my benches around and get right where I need to be. So that's the discovery, is that I'm finding that I wasn't planning on it, but I really like using them and keeping them mobile most of the time that I'm using them. Another positive discovery is the vacuum. So my vacuum is my power to the tools that are not battery operated. Right now, of course, I have a battery table saw and a battery miter saw, and I'm sticking to those exclusively because they're new and I am going to do a review on them and I really want some time with them. So I'm not using my Capex. My Capex fits here. I've shown you that. I can swap the saws out. The bench works with both without any modification to the bench. So when I have my saw stop and my Capex on, I need the power. And of course, when I'm running my routers, I need the power. I use my vacuum as my power source for all my power tools. I have one of those triple taps that plugs right into the power on the vacuum, and then it gives me 3, and I'm able to plug in everything. And of course, I have the remote start built into that automatically with the Festool vac. The discovery, though, is that with the Smart Kart, which is essentially a tray on wheels, I'm able to put the vacuum. In fact, I can put 2 vacuums easily. But I can put my vacuum on there, have my tools plugged into the vacuum, the hose running up to, I've got a splitter for the hose as well, so I can share the vacuum with multiple tools. When I want to move around, I just have the one power cord going from the vacuum to the wall, and it's a long cord. So most of the time I can just move it and that cord will just stretch out. If I'm going to move it a greater distance, then all I have to do is unplug that one cord, toss it on the cart, and then I can move the whole thing. So I'm not dragging my vacuum and the hose, not having to disconnect all of that. It really is mobile. Another discovery, which makes absolute total sense, is the cradles. Now, I started working on the cradles before the cart, and I've put them on hold. In fact, that's what I'm back at to working on today, is finalizing the cradles. But now that I have my workbench more mobile on the job or in the shop, when I'm actually working it's mobile, going with these cradles makes a lot more sense. So just like the vacuum, with the table saw hanging off of the bench, when I move it around, it stays in its orientation to the bench. And in fact, moving the bench oftentimes has to do with the table saw. If I'm doing a longer rip and I need a little more space on the infeed end, I can just move my bench out and I've got more space. And then once I'm done with that one operation, I can easily push it back. And the cradles allow that. If it were on a stand, then I would have to move, reset. So this gives me that really quick move, again, allowing me to use a small space as if it's a much larger space. And that'll work with the other tools that I'm making cradles for as well, the benchtop sander and the Craig jig. It also is leading me to the saw stop. I have avoided making a cradle for the saw stop and haven't really even wanted to pursue it, except to show you with larger table saws that it would be possible. But now I'm thinking, with how well this table saw is working, and I want to get back to using my saw stop at some point, that having the saw stop hanging off of the bench for that mobility is going to make a lot of sense. It's going to add that issue that I've been avoiding, which is picking up an over 80-pound saw and moving it in the trailer and out of the trailer. But it might be worthwhile when I'm on the job or when I'm in the shop to have that mobility. I'm getting very close to announcing the Smart Kart. The cart itself is there. I'm waiting on the 800-pound wheels to put on this cart, and I've also ordered a couple of handles that go on each end that I want to mount to help with the storage. So I've got a couple of more little details I want to work out. I want to make sure that everything is working the way I want it to work, and if there's any mods to it I want to do, I want to get all of that done before I finalize the plans and make them available to you. But it's coming very soon. Well, now I got to get back to making these cradles. I'm real excited because they're going to make a big difference tied in with the smart cart. Hey, if you enjoy these videos, if you learned anything, if you'd like to see me make more, then be sure to give me a thumbs up and subscribe. The only way you're going to know when I put up a new video is when you subscribe, to ring that bell, because that's the only way that YouTube will let you know. Thanks for dropping into the Smart Wood Shop. You stay safe and have a great day.